Davie Brown.
Hi Simon.
How you doing?
Not bad, yourself?
Alright, yeah, a bit harassed getting here early this morning to fit you in.
Aye.
Busy.
I know.
Still working, Davie?
Aye, I've got a couple of days off, so I'm just back and forward. I've got a centenary dinner in the club on Saturday.
Right.
So
What's the club?
The Trace and Ex-Servicemen's Club.
Of course, yes.
So I was down at the printers finalising the table numbers and the...
You pretty much running that now? You
Well,
in the chair?
I'm the vice president. I was the president for 2.5 years, but a promotion in work, so I put an end to that.
Okay.
So
ex-serviceman, what were you in, Davie?
I wasn't actually
Can we make something up for the
if you want.
folks then? Make it sound dramatic.
Well, there was an old boy in the club come up to me, and I was on duty one night, and he says to me, "What forces were you in?" I says, "The palatoid division." And he went, "Very good." And away, and he came back and went, "Don't be a smarters."
He went and checked, looked it up.
Aye, so that was...
So how did you get involved with the ex-servicemen's club then?
My father-in-law was a member, or is a member, and through him I was going down playing snooker, things like that. And they get wind that I'd done a lot of fundraising, and they were going to Normandy and taking some of the old boys with them, and asked me if I could help raise money. So I organised a raffle and things like that for them.
Right.
And for there, I ended up on the committee.
Okay.
And then I was a vice president for 6.5 years. Then I was a president for 2.5 years. As I said, I get promotion in my work, so I gave that up. And the gentleman that was the president before me decided to go back in as president.
Right.
And
now that you'd sorted it all out?
No. And he just basically had a chat with me, asked me if I could back and help out. So I'm back as vice president.
Hence why we're having the games night there in a couple of weeks for the boys, yes.
Yeah, it's the night's arranged. It's just whether the boys can make it is the thing.
Did I warn you that I was a police champion, snooker champion?
I think you mentioned it. Right.
Showed you the trophy and the plaque. Actually, I don't know what happened to the trophy.
No.
I know that I took it up to Henry Africa's that night.
I thought maybe we were in the cap in the gear with everything else.
Aye, I don't know. She probably
your Scottish Cup.
That's good you mentioned that. Or the Scottish Cup that are over 50s one.
Aye, the over 50s one. I've only got a league winners medal for last year, but
Giffnock, right? Just thought I'd get that.
I didn't think I was good enough to play for Pollock. Or I wasn't asked to play for Pollock, I should say.
I'm going to come back to that because you're a kind of Gordon McAllister type character, but he'll play for MD. He'll play for MD. A little game, basically, in any position. So walking football, Davie, how did you learn about it and what was your first thoughts when somebody said?
I'd heard about it a while back now, and I actually stumbled across it at the Dennis Donnelly during lockdown.
Yes. You were a passer-by.
I was a passer-by, and I came in and basically did my nosy. And you introduced yourself, but I'd known you a long time before that.
Aye.
And as soon as you say, "I'm Simon," I say, "Simon McLean." And your first reply was, "Did I arrest you?" I went, No.
You do that kind of look about it, Davie.
Crime Watch.
It's always got to be the first question in case I need to take my distance further back.
No. The only time I was involved with the police when I was younger, I was 8 years of age. And we get booked for playing football in the street. And we ended up in Craigie Street.
Oh, you get charged? You actually get charged?
We ended up in Craigie Street for playing football.
Right, you were that bad then?
Aye.
Well, you'll see me. You got a warning?
Aye, just a slap in the wrist. And told me to
because getting booked in those days was really, you were in the book, you were in the black book, especially at that age, but they gave you a fright. Where were you playing, the middle of Cathcart Road or something?
No, I grew up in Castlemilk. I was born in Castlemilk. And we stayed in Hodham Avenue. And
you Hodham, I'll heat them, that avenue.
So I come down the stair, chapped my friend's door for him and his brother to come out and play with my brother and myself at football. And my brother ran across the road. I kicked the ball across the road just as the police car came in the corner.
Typical.
And the next thing, we were all separated.
And you've stuck to that defence for, what, 50 years?
Aye, that's
it's still not working.
I know.
You still get convicted.
That's it.
So that first day at Dennis Donnelly, when your wee face came over the fence, that was the first time you'd seen walking football in real life?
I'd heard about it, but that was the first I'd actually seen it.
Did you play that day? Did you come?
No, I came back. I think that was the Monday. I came back on the Friday, I think it was.
Right. And that was you?
That was me hooked, aye.
So, the big question here for me is, how did you end up at Gifford? Are they poaching all our players at an early stages or something?
They started the Sunday group.
I was there. I helped them start it.
And I went along to that.
Right. As did Ricky and Jim the goalie and guys, but they're still Pollock boys,
and
you know.
David Denham.
David.
Oh, I'm still a Pollock boy. I started playing football with Pollock United back in the day.
And you ended up playing for Gifford.
Yeah.
Something no right.
I wasn't asked to play for Pollock, so I meant to be honest. There was 2 steak bakes and a bottle of Iron Brew.
Well, I never got that. You got them. If I'd got a steak, mate, I wouldn't be having this conversation.
That was my signing on fee. So.
Did you eat them all yourself?
No.
You did, obviously.
Don't like Iron Brew. So that was basically
You weren't asked to play for Pollock?
No.
Oh well, I don't pick the team in.
No, I know.
Nothing to do with me. But you're a Pollock boy now anyway.
Aye.
Born and bred Castle Milk?
I was born in Craig Road.
Right.
Moved to Hodham Avenue.
Is that still Castle Milk, is it?
Aye.
And what age were you when you came down here?
I came to Pollock when I was 11.
Right. Go to secondary school?
Went to Crookston Castle.
Right.
And then I left there in 83 and became a roof tiler.
Right.
And then...
Why a roof tiler, Davie? I know it's going up in the world.
I always wanted a night in the tiles. That was just a job come along.
Okay.
I was actually waiting for an apprenticeship as a joiner, but the roof tiling came first.
Right.
So I went there.
Okay. In Glasgow?
Yeah, well, travelled all over Scotland.
Of course, yeah. And what was the company?
It was Strathclyde Roofing Company Limited. They were based in Linwood at the time. And I worked there for a few years. I had an accident at work. Actually, came off a roof and a bit of tile came down and embedded in my hand. That's the scar there. Went back to it, my heart wasn't in it then. And then I ended up in delivering catering equipment.
Right.
For McGregor and Company. They're no longer here.
All over Scotland?
It was mostly Ayrshire and Lanarkshire.
Okay.
I was there for 8.5 years. They moved to Grangemouth, and I was to make my own way to Grangemouth, and I thought I need something closer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually...
Are you still at home at this point? Still staying with your parents?
No, I was married.
Right.
I've been in Corkerhill nearly 35 years now.
Right.
It's actually my 35th wedding anniversary in a couple of weeks. Was there for 8.5 years. They moved to Grangemouth. I was in delivering a company called Cairns and Scott.
Mm-hmm.
It's an events company.
Yep.
Get to talking to the boss, and I started in September 2000. And they closed during lockdown.
Right.
COVID. So
they closed down?
Aye. They went into liquidation. That was 21 years I was there. And now I work for a very well known DIY store.
Aye, you do, aye.
So.
And everybody knows that now, because you get roped into doing all the wee jobs about you. You're carrying a bit of wood in there when I came in there.
Well, Andy name dropped it in his interview, so I'll no mention it.
You can't mention a former trade or anything in here, because that's you roped in right away.
Aye, so.
Mo's doing the gutters and all that. Everybody's getting roped in. But that's what keeps it going.
For.
Yep. You'll be the same at the Tradesman's Club. Maintain.
Social convener, vice president, bar manager, DIY, whatever. It's a small group of
and security on Monday the 16th when we all...
I'll be the barman that night.
Aye.
The barman that night, so...
Good. So you mentioned that, we'll come back to the walking football, Davie, because you've obviously played football your whole life, I would suggest.
Aye,
We'll come back to that. But you alluded to the fact that you knew me when you saw us playing up at Dennis Donnelly. And I never immediately recognised you. As soon as you said, I knew you, but I didn't know where from. It could easily have been present. You know?
I dark hair when I first met you, Simon. I remember that's what it was.
But we'd met, was it in hospital that we had met then?
Well, I'd seen you in the
York
hospital.
Hill.
In York Hill, but we were actually doing a collection, and my cousin worked in a chip shop at the time, and somebody stole one of the collecting tins.
Right. This rings a bell.
And it was 2 policemen from Pollock.
A cystic fibrosis tin?
Yeah, it was
Right.
the CF tin, yep. And 2 policemen from Pollock seen it. And they came and seen us, said they were going to do a sponsored stamp.
Right.
Going round police stations and collecting money. And then you came to my house. And that's when I really got to know you a bit.
Right.
Then I seen you a few times up at York Hill after that.
So the initial connection was all cystic fibrosis anyway, because both of our daughters were born with cystic fibrosis.
Yep.
And we both lost our daughters in the interim, Laura and Louise. And we did our charity thing. That's something I was going to speak to you about today. I know we're going to be about the houses here. What about doing the charity thing again this year? What do you think?
I'm up for that.
I didn't want to put it out there. I've not spoke to anybody about it yet, because you don't want to hammer these things. I was always conscious you didn't keep going back to the well all the time.
Well, when I was doing my fundraising, I always tend to do it every second year.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to keep going back to people all the time and looking
what I
for
was
money.
thinking was the tournament was a success.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody enjoyed the day and enjoyed playing the football. The fact that we took a tenner off them was neither here nor there.
No.
It added to it. We'll have a chat about it, but
it was actually a great day because a lot of people went above and beyond, really. The boys for Long Gilphead,
right.
They handed an envelope in with, I think it was £200 in it, that they collected
and then went away with the trophy.
And then went away with the trophy, aye.
That was unforeseen.
Set of strips and everything into the bargain.
That's right. You got the cup.
It was the golf section.
The golf section.
The ex-servicemen's golf section.
Put up the prize.
Prize for the winners.
Yeah.
So that was.
So we'll do something again, I think. We'll maybe have the tournament again.
Yeah.
We'll not invite Gilphead because they won it. We'll bring rubbish teams this time.
Try and get one of our own teams.
Try and win it ourselves, aye. But we'll discuss that privately. So Laura, tell me about Laura then, if you don't mind.
Laura, she was born 25th August 87. She was 28 when she passed away.
So she's a year older than Louise. Louise was the 28th of August 88. So there's a year between them.
Yeah. So Laura, she was into everything. Nothing, it never ever held her back. I mean, she was doing rock climbing and marathons, junior marathons and things like that.
I found Louise was almost the opposite, that she was trying to cram so much in. Because she obviously knew that time might be limited. So she just was a thirst for life, you know.
Oh no, she loved partying and everything else, you know what I mean, and holidays and all that sort of stuff. So
life and soul.
That was her.
And your wife Angela, have you got other kids, David?
I've got a son, David. He'll be 32 in November.
Right, so he was a wee bit younger.
He was. There was 3 years between David and Laura. So
that's the same. I had 2 kids already. And I was talking about this at the weekend. There was a woman in York Hill at the same time that our kids were there, and she had 3 kids with CF. We were lucky, if you like to put it that way, that we had an extended family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could share in it. But to lose 3 kids to the same thing is just devastating. So there's always somebody worse off, isn't there?
Oh, aye.
And I used to say to folk, you should go to York Hill. Everybody should be made to go to York Hill.
And see
Ward 6B it was at that time.
That's right.
And spend half a day at least, and you'll come out of there a wee bit more humble and thankful.
Because Laura was born with a perforated bowel.
Right.
And she got the operation. She got an operation the following day after she was born. And she had the bag and things like that. And it was about 6 weeks later they reversed the operation. But they were doing tests during that time. And that's when I discovered cystic fibrosis. So
what age was she then when they diagnosed her?
Oh, she was only months old.
Right. Because Louise was 6 months. But that diagnosis is very important in any disease or illness. The earlier you catch it, the better. And they weren't very good back then at diagnosing. Obviously, Laura got diagnosed because of the other problems that were ongoing, and there's blood tests and all that involved. We had to coax them into that testing Louise, and I think it was a 50p blood sample. That's how much it cost to take a heel sample from her to do the blood test. But we had to it took us 6 months to coax them into doing that. So hopefully it's changed now, because that early diagnosis is very, very important.
Because we'd never heard about cystic fibrosis.
No, neither did I.
And it was somebody that worked with Angela's mum knew Rosemary and Danny Beaton.
Oh, yes, yes.
And Rosemary came to the house once Laura was at the hospital. She was in hospital for a few months. Then Rosemary came to the house and sat and spoke to us about CF and that sort of thing. So
Louise was diagnosed and we went home upset, but we didn't know why we were upset because we knew nothing about it. They might have gave us a leaflet, but I don't remember a leaflet or anything. You were just told, and here's what's happening next. You've got an appointment next Tuesday at the CF clinic. And that was about the height of it. So I phoned my best mate's father-in-law was a GP. So I phoned Stan and he got me the number, and I phoned his I think he might have been even retired at that stage, old Dr. Jimison, and I told him what had happened. And what I didn't realise that he was retired or near retirement. So his impression of CF was way behind the times. And he said to me on the phone, well, Simon, there's no point in messing about here. She won't reach 5 years of age. The hospital had kind of prepared me for that as well, Davie. I don't know if things...
Yeah, well, when I spoke to somebody in the hospital and we found out, that was the sort of impression
the prognosis,
he gave as well.
And I think they were deliberately playing things down rather than build any expectation. Because in the event, Louise lived till she was 23 and a half. So you could look at that as 18 years bonus, you know. But old Arthur said that because he knew about CF when he'd been a practicing GP, which was maybe 10 or 20 years before that. Because it was only discovered maybe 30 years before that. So it's a very new disease at that point. And I now know, as you probably do, that the advances they've made in the last 10 years.
It's been amazing.
Fantastic. So the prognosis for kids now with that early diagnosis is much, much better than it was for Louise and Laura.
I mean, as I said, you mentioned 6B there. I mean, at the time, the staff at 6B were brilliant.
Yeah.
I always remember a nurse, Terry Nisbet, her name was. And
I remember Louise. I more remember Louise's relationship with the nurses than I remember Terry's.
Terry was a Celtic supporter, and she used to always wind me up when I went in. So I remember Terry, but all the staff were brilliant.
Yeah. There was a real atmosphere in there, wasn't there? Unfortunately, what we didn't know was that they were all cross-infecting at the time and didn't realise it because we didn't know about the germs that we know about now and the need for segregation. I think, thankfully, because now CF kids are kept apart from the earliest ages. They don't get to mix with other CF kids at all.
Because even when Laura went to Gartnavel, it was all individual rooms and they weren't allowed to meet with other CF kids and things like that. So
that was it all starting to kick in then, wasn't it? They were starting to realise when Louise was under 5 anyway, maybe 4, all the kids used to go into one bed and play together and share toys and all the rest of it. You think the damage they were doing now,
and things like that, they'd all sit and play together.
And the nurses would go from bed to bed and whatnot. God knows what we were spreading then. I didn't know about it. But you could only deal with the things you know about at the time. So you lost Laura 2000
nearly 6 years ago now.
16.
It's in the fortnight's time. 6 years. So.
Okay, 11 years down that road. 11 years come October this year. So where are you in that? I'm going to ask you a question here that some folk will find strange 6 years after. How are you in that process?
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah, because it is a process, Davie, isn't it? It's not something that a year down the road is in. If anything, it gets more poignant, the anniversaries, Christmas and birthdays and things like that. And Angela?
That's brave face.
Just got on with it, don't you? You just got.
You've got to.
Yes. Well, I remember when Louise passed. I remember saying to people about 6 months when I surfaced after 6 months because I was somewhere else for 6 months. When I surfaced, I realised that I had a choice. That I didn't need to just survive because there's lots of people just go and prop up a bar when these things happen. Or start doing things that they wouldn't normally have done. And what kept me going was thinking, what would Louise want me to do here? How would she want me to handle this? So 6 years, I'm 5 years further down the road than you, and it's still exactly the same. It's still just as poignant today as it was then. But you've got coping mechanisms now, having put some distance between, and you've got responsibilities to other people as well.
It's, as I said, Simon, at the time, you go for else, you do.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. And then it's whether you get back on them or not, and that's the choices. I think the point I'm making is we do a lot of stuff here, and mental health comes up all the time. Not because we can plan on it. It just comes up because people have got mental health issues and dealing with them, anxiety and depression and all sorts of things. And I think it's important that any bereavement. Yeah. I think I can't imagine anything worse than losing a child, but any bereavement for the person that's suffering it is something that's got to be coped with and dealt with. And I think the key that first 6 months for me was communication, because I could easily have not spoke to anybody. And I discovered that if you switch your phone off and don't answer it, people will keep phoning for a couple of weeks. For a couple of weeks, and then they dwindle because you're no answering. Well, that's what I was going to leave you a message, you don't get back to them, so they think, oh well, you don't want to speak to me anymore. Because when Laura passed, people in and out all the time and everything else, and then all of a sudden there's nobody, and you're thinking, oh, because they're all waiting on their life, and you get time to think about things, and that sort of kicks in. So there's a lot of dangers in there, and I think the point I'm making for anybody is to talk. Oh, aye. I asked for counselling, and I get told there's an 8 months waiting list to get counselling. So to look for help from the health profession, the health National Health Service, I don't think it's there. I don't know what your experience was, but I'll give you an example with Louise. Louise was on a downward slope from the May of the year that she died in October. She was at death's door in the May. And she came back from it, but she only lasted another 6 months. And during that spell, it was a time bomb. And she knew it was a time bomb. So this guy used to come into the ward at Gartnavel and do some counselling with her. Bereavement counselling. Yeah. Not bereavement. End of life counselling. And he was a really nice guy, and he gave her some exercises to do that she enjoyed. And she enjoyed chatting to him, and he came in maybe once a week. And then 1 week, he never turned up. And she was messaging me, Mr. Such and Such hasn't turned up. So I went up to the hospital and sat with her and had a breather. I phoned him several times, nothing. And he came the following week, and I was there to find out why he hadn't turned up the week before, because I'd asked the nurses, I'd asked the sister, nobody knew anything. Didn't even have the courtesy to phone and tell her that he wasn't coming. And he came in and he took me aside and he said, Simon, the hour that I spend with Louise isn't paid for anywhere. There's no funding for that. No. She'd have to wait 2 years to get somebody. End of life, remember, counselling. I know. I just come in when I can fit it in. I just make an effort to get here. He was doing it off his own back. Squeezed it into his timetable. And it was almost invaluable to Louise. It's hard to quantify how important these things are. It's a different face. Yes. Yes, she can talk to her partially and talk about me probably, and it doesn't matter. But it was me, anytime you said, oh dad. Yeah. That was all you got. But as I said, Angela's family are quite close, and they were always at the hospital, so she always had somebody to speak to. Yeah. We were the same, we were never out of the place. Second home. I slept on the floor for 2 years virtually. But hopefully anybody going through anything like that, and see as we get older, bereavement's all around us. Oh, I know. Aye. So it's part of life that's got to be dealt with, and talking to people. It's a cycle, isn't it? Yes, yeah. And it takes us right back to the walking football, because most of the people that play walking football, I'd say everybody's pretty much over 50, a lot between 60 and 70. And more and more now becoming, coming into their 70s and 80s. And the whole objective is to create a bit of longevity in there with the exercise and whatnot. So there's these things going on all the time. I enjoy the walk football. It's just work commitments it sort of limits my time. But as I said, since that day I started coming, it's been a part. And I've tried to speak to friends of mine. I'll not mention his name, but John. I says, come along. I says, you're always going on about walking football, and you slag it off. Come along and try it. Because when we're out together, and there's a couple of other boys we get as couples and with our wives, and walking football. My answer to them is,
many league titles did you win when you were 55?
Have you seen Aldo's interview? Aldo Pellegrini?
I get the boots for his birthday or something.
75 years of age.
I watched most of them. Tommy Twiggs is a great,
some character, isn't he?
A great story.
And he's here today. He's now helping us with the memories thing and all that. He's a character.
On Tommy's video, he mentioned the football fans in training.
Right.
I was part of the same group.
Right.
With Tommy.
Okay.
And the boys that were there made it a great group. But anybody that's wanting to go and do it when Andy and George start it again, I would recommend it.
It's coming up again.
Because I actually lost over a stone in the 12 weeks that I was doing it.
Wow.
So it's a good setup, and Andy and George are really good with it. So.
And have you kept the stone off?
Up and down, Simon, you know what I mean? So
what is the crux of the courses? I know there's a bit of exercise involved, obviously. Is it lifestyle stuff?
Lifestyle changes, things like that. And
wee bit more exercise, wee bit more care of your diet and stuff like that. Yeah.
Because I'd done Slimming World. I was just over 20 stone.
Wow.
And I went to Slimming World.
Right.
And I lost 5.5 stone in 14 months.
Wow.
Done that.
That's a change of wardrobe for sure.
Well, I was going to China to do the Great Wall Trek for the CF Trust.
Right.
And I thought, I'd lose some weight for going. And that's what I done. I raised just over £6,000 in that.
Brilliant. And what an experience.
Oh, great.
Who did you go with?
It was a company in London.
Right.
Global Adventure, I think they were called.
So they set it all up.
They set it up.
You do it for your charity.
You do it for your good, yeah. I think there was about 42 people in the group. We're all doing it for different.
How much of the wall did you walk?
Oh, covered quite a bit. I think over the 5 days, it was easy.
A couple of miles?
Aye, just a couple of knots.
How long were you walking a day?
Quite a bit. Some days were longer than others, but over a 5-day period, it was easy.
Be an hour anyway.
A wee bit longer. But no, a great experience. And then
staying in different places every night?
Hotels.
That's all set up.
They were called hotels, but...
Right. But rough and ready, was it?
Concrete blocks with inch mattresses on top of them and things like that for your bed. So I was in... We walked for 5 days. All in, it was 9 days in total. We walked for 5. And it must have covered easy 100 mile.
Wow.
Over the 5 days. Then I came back, and I think it was two or 3 years later we done the Kilt Walk.
Right. That's about
a group
1 day.
23.5 mile.
Yeah.
I would do China again before I done a Kilt Walk again. But it was hard going, because I had the rucksack with the change of shoes and water and fruit and all that sort of stuff.
This is from Clydebank to Ballock or something?
Glasgow Green.
Glasgow Green
to Ballock Park.
Right.
So I said to Angela, change of shoes, take my trainers, take this, take that.
Was she walking as well?
There was a group who's done it.
I had her with the car and all that stuff in it.
So I've carried this rucksack for 23.5 mile. We gets to the park. You want your trainers? No, I'm all right. I've got fruit and water and everything in this backpack. I didn't need it. I'm like,
how do they supply all that?
As you're going along the walk, there's stations of water.
So
and
you don't need to carry all that?
No, you don't need to carry it. But as the first time, you're naive and that sort of thing.
I did the entire way over 5 days, which is like your China walk. And I finished it on Louise's birthday down in Campbelltown at the cemetery. But I had a backup driver. I had a guy, Don, who's passed away now, a Turkish lad. And he drove the car between the stops for me. Met me at night with all the gear. So I never had to carry much.
But as I said, there was a group here that done it. My son-in-law, Gary, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, Paul, their daughter, John Craig, Jim Bennett, Angie Kennedy,
brilliant.
Angela. I can't mind exactly how much we paid, but it was quite a bit of money.
Between you?
Between us all.
Yeah.
So,
And the experiences,
and as I said, you're walking, you're meeting people that you know,
yes.
you don't know were doing the kilt walk and things like that.
Yeah.
So I met people, as I said, working events, so I met people for a racecourse that were doing the walk.
Right.
Bumped into them, had a chat with them while we were walking, but you get so far, you're up for it, and then you just hit a brick wall.
Aye.
You
can't predict that.
You get down there and you just hit the brick wall, and that's you.
What was the weather like?
It was okay. It was okay. It was a bit like today.
Right.
So
it's fine.
Not
too hot.
So that was good.
It's good when it's over.
You get to the end.
Aye.
So I'd arranged a minibus for Ballot back to the club.
Right.
And just went into the club for
of course.
A wee refreshment after it. So that was.
I know that feeling, Davie. Over the years, so many things, golf and all sorts of events put on for charity. You'll be the same as me, because part of the therapy, I think, is getting involved in the charity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And helping all the charity events, football matches. I don't know about you, but back in the day, when I was chairman of the West of Scotland Trust for CN, I could have been 24/7. I actually spoke to the police about giving me a year out, and they were up for that.
Yeah.
To take a year out just to do charity events, because there's a momentum to it as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every event you put on, you meet people who offer you other things. In fact, I've still got a few things from our charity event back in October.
Yeah.
Big Jack Walk gave me a bottle of whiskey that's worth a couple of £100. But I've never put it into the auction because I keep thinking it's getting more valuable every day. You know what I mean? For the trust, but it belongs to Cystic Fibrosis now. Campbell Logover gave me a signed shirt.
That was the Inter Milan
shirt. And I've still got that because I never got a bid. Our event wasn't really tailored for big bids for single things like that.
Because was it Chris that bid for them and handed them back?
And gave him the money.
I gave you money.
He gave us £400 and said, just keep them. That's because he's not very bright.
You get the Rangers top as well, Have you still got that?
I think so. I don't remember MD taking the Rangers.
No, I think Chris paid for the two of them, didn't he?
I can't remember.
And handed them back.
So the things with charity events, it just goes on and on and on. It can take over your life completely doing all. And that's how you're now doing all this in the club as well, because you're used to organising these things.
It's
putting things together like that.
Enjoy it.
It's great on the day when you see it.
Some of the characters you meet, the older guys, it's still game when you get into the club sometimes. Some of the part of you here. It's good. It's good.
So what's this talk? What's the story?
That's my Peterborough United.
Why Peterborough United? They couldn't be further away from Castlemore.
Well, there was a pre-season friendly. Rangers were playing Ipswich Town. And I went with my cousin, and we get the train for Glasgow Central.
Down in Ipswich.
Right. So we get the train for Glasgow Central to Peterborough, changed trains at Peterborough to Ipswich. So there was a sort of time between trains, and we were sitting at the train station, and I noticed Barry Fry.
Right.
So I said to my cousin, I says, "That's Barry Fry." He went, "Who's that?" I says, "He's the manager of Peterborough." He went, "Manager of Peterborough down in the train station." So I said, "I'm going to go and talk to him." So I goes out and talked about football and everything else, asked him why he was in the train station. And it was his testimonial match that night.
Right.
And he was actually waiting on Alec Ferguson coming off a train for London
to
take him to the stadium.
Brilliant.
So, as I said, talked about football. It was time for us to go. Nice meeting you, Barry, blah, blah, blah. So we went to Ipswich for the game. Get back to the Peterborough. Rangers won about 3-1, I think it was. Okay. It was about 17 years ago. Back to Peterborough that night, and my cousin's wife's got family in Peterborough, so we stayed over. Up the next morning, out about Peterborough, and I noticed the stadium. So we went over, we looked about the stadium.
What's the stadium called?
London Road.
Right.
That's what it is. So we went into the reception, asked when the shop was opening. And they said it doesn't open, it's only open certain days. Right, okay. And the woman says, "Is something you're after?" I says, "I just want something to take up the road for my son." Because any time we went anywhere, I'd always go and get him something to take home. So this woman, Margaret, came down. I always remember it. Right, come on, I'll take you into the shop, you can get something. So I'm walking along this corridor, and I saw these offices, and this door's lying open. And as I walked by, Barry Fry was sitting.
Right, your pal.
And I went, "Hi Barry, how you doing?" And I looked up and went, "Come here."
Who are you? You following me?
He says, "Come in." So I walks in, there's two guys sitting with suits on.
Davie.
And he's like, I met this loony in the train station last night in the White Ipswich. So he gets talking away. He's into the shop.
Who were the two suits?
I don't know.
Oh, right.
I don't know who they were. Goes in, gets a couple of programmes for the testimonial match. Goes in, signs them for me. So he says, "How long are you here for, son?" I says, "I've got a few hours to kill before we get back up the road." He went, "Hold on a minute." So I went on the phone, this boy came down. "Take these boys a tour of the stadium before they go back to Glasgow." So we get a tour of the stadium, and ever since then I followed the posh.
Right.
So I go down whenever I can.
Right. So I've been to a few games then.
I go down every so often. It costs me about £300 to go to a home game, you know what I mean? I pay my train fare and my...
Did they never come up for pre-season?
Well, that was actually a discussion on Twitter with Dara Mark Anthony, who was the owner of Peterborough. And they were talking about a tour of Scotland maybe next summer. So,
right.
But we go down to Fleetwood and Blackpool when they're playing there, and just spend the weekend in Blackpool.
You'll know other Peterborough fans now as well. You'll have met folk over the years.
Well, you meet guys when you get in there. I don't think there's any more in Glasgow.
You're right.
That's it. But because I went down.
Because it's such a strange one, Peterborough, isn't it? I mean, my English team, Newcastle.
Aye.
Down there last weekend. Aye. Yeah, I did the tour last weekend. It was brilliant.
So we went down. I went down to Peterborough. I think it was after lockdown. I went to get my match ticket. Went to this pub for something to eat, and this guy's sitting. He's talking away at me, and he looks and went, "Are you working down here?" And I'm like, No. He says, "Where do you live?" I says, "Glasgow." And he went, "So why are you here?" And I says, "I come down for the game." And he's looking at me as if to say, "Aye, all right."
Escaped from somewhere.
And I says, "I left Glasgow at 6 o'clock this morning." And I says, "To get the train." And next thing is I'll be around the pub telling everybody I'd travelled to Glasgow for the game. And then all these pints are... I started coming over and I went, "I need to go here."
I'll never get back.
I said, I'll not get to see the game if I sit here any longer. But I just talked away and the boys were coming there. "That's great, you come down for Glasgow," and that sort of thing. So ever since then, as I said, about 17 years now.
My Newcastle top's got a Louise part of the story because I'd always had an affinity for it because I'd been down there as a boy playing football. But Louise, Cyndi Lauper, I was a Cyndi Lauper fan when I was younger, and the kids had the DVDs or videos it was in those days. So the kids knew who Cyndi Lauper was because of that. And she was playing, it came on television that she was playing the Edinburgh Playhouse that night, Friday night. And we were in the house in East Kilbride when it came on the telly. And Louise said, "Oh, Dad, Cyndi Lauper's playing." Louise would be, I don't know, maybe 10 or something like that. Right? "Cyndi Lauper's playing in Edinburgh. Can we go?" So I phoned to Edinburgh Playhouse, sold out. But I told them the story about Louise and wanted to see something, and they said, "Bring her through. We'll find somewhere for her." So in the event, you know, it was the old Playhouse in Edinburgh, and there's a wee seat at the side that the ice cream lady used to sit on. Do you remember that in the pictures? There was one wee seat at the side of the aisle that she would sit on, waiting for the half-time break. So there was me there with Louise on my knee, almost at the stage, maybe 20 feet away from the stage. And Louise loved it. It was the first ever gig that she'd been at that age. And Cyndi Lauper was amazing. And we came home and I had bought stuff for the other two, t-shirts and stuff like that. So Simon got his t-shirt, he was the oldest. And on it had the tour dates on the back. And the next night they were playing at Newcastle. And Simon said, "Dad, we could go to Newcastle and see it again if it was that good." So I phoned Newcastle. I never got to do the same trick, but I bought tickets for the Newcastle gig and booked a hotel. And the four of us went down to Newcastle for 2 nights. We were down there, and it was fantastic. I always remember that I was looking for directions to the hotel, and I rolled the window down and asked somebody, and it was a broad Geordie accent. And the kids thought we were abroad. They never understood a word. "Where are we, Dad?" folk speak funny like that. So there's that affinity. It's all
Aye.
these things over the years, isn't it?
Aye, because Laura, she loved her music as well.
Yeah. Dance music.
No,
No?
it's she was Elvis daft.
Oh,
Loved
wow.
Elvis.
Yeah.
Everywhere you went in her house, there was pictures of Elvis. There was even a canvas in the toilet. Then my line of work at the time doing the events, we used to have a lot of work at the exhibition centre.
Of course.
You're doing there, you'd get in day jobs, you get talking away to people.
Yeah.
And I get talking away to this woman one night, and she says, I need these tables set up. And I says, oh, we don't do set up, Paul, you've got to pay for the setup. That's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she get talking away. I says, what is it you do? She says, oh, I work with Westlife. I went, all right. I says,
tables are set up.
I says, I've got 15, 20 minutes. I says, I'll help you set up the tables while I'm here. I says, my daughter loves Westlife. I says, but we couldn't
Really subtle.
Yes, we couldn't get tickets. Yeah, all right. She went, what age is she? And I was telling her. No problem. She went, right, what you do is bring her over. She'll be on the guest list and she'll have tickets and backstage passes.
Brilliant.
So that was her. She got to meet Westlife before the gig.
Did she write Westlife?
No. It was Angela went there. It was Angela that went. So they met Westlife, went to their seats, but they were actually sitting in the family section.
Right.
And she was sitting next to Brian McFadden's dad. One of the singers.
Okay.
She was sitting next to him. And of course, Laura was blank for whistling at the concerts and fingers in the mouth and all that sort of thing. So Angela says to her, stop doing that. There's that man sitting beside you. And of course, I'm Brian's dad, it's fine, just do what you want. And then after the concert, if you want to go backstage and meet them.
Fantastic.
And Angela says, I'm worried to meet him before the concert. So, but she done that. Met Craig David as well.
Right.
Westlife, Boyzone. She met quite a few.
We were the same. The one I remember from my perspective was Marty Pell. She never got to meet him, but she was wet with all the kids were wet after that time. And I was just moving from Govan. I was just about to move down south actually in the Polis, but I was in uniform and I was up at Paisley Road Toll. In those days they put you in uniform to keep you out of trouble, keep you out the road. I think I was a community man. Community man for Ibrox or something. And I was in uniform up at Paisley Road Toll, and there was a Land Rover parked outside the old bank, Bank of Scotland, or Bank of Scotland, double parked right at the toll, and I'm walking towards it, shaking my head, and I went up, and just as I got close to it, the driver came running out, and it's Marty Pell, and he jumps into the Land Rover just as I get to it, and he rolls his window down, he goes, sorry big man, sorry about that. I guess just hang on a wee minute. I got my notebook out, and he goes, oh, big man. I said, hey, that's enough. What's your name? He had a middle name as well, I can't remember it now, so I wrote his name. Deadpan, I'm Deadpan. Date of birth? Big man. Hey, I was only in getting... And he gave me an address in Govan as well. Clifford Street, he gave me the address. So I finished taking all his details, and I says, right, just sign underneath that for me, please. He went, you're at it, big man, you're at it. And he signed, I've got his autograph in my notebook. And he says, hang on a wee minute. And he got on his radio to his office. What's your address, big man? You get kids, blah, blah, blah. So they got a big box sent through the post of all the wet stuff, He's quite a character. That smile, he just knocked you out with that smile. Once he realised I was at it.
Just did we mention him, wet. Was we were doing a delivery in the West End. It was Christmas time, and the guy had ordered tables and chairs for a Christmas dinner.
Okay.
So I'm getting it, and I'm looking at the guy, and I went, oh, that guy's face was somewhere. And he signed the paper. I says, don't be a bit cheeky. I says, but I know you face somewhere. And he went, aye. And he just pushed this door open, and it was all the discs on the wall, in the room. Went, that's how I know you.
Who was it?
The guitarist for Wet.
Oh, right.
Was it Graham McKenzie or something? His name was, I can't mind. But it was all the discs were on the wall. And it was one of the ones when I said, I know your face. And like,
it all clicks in. He's used to that.
Even Tommy Cunningham, I met him in Gap Naval one night.
Right.
He was walking along the corridor. I was up seeing Laura, and he's walking. I went, all right, Tommy, how you doing? Not bad, pal, yourself. And he stopped and he turned to me and says, "How do I know you?" I went, "You don't." But,
I used to take them all up to the ward at City as well. Barry Ferguson and Derek and a lot of the guys came up. Tom Lloyd. There was lots of players came up. They had a rota. Because I worked in Ibrox or at Ibrox, remember? But the teams had a rota for public events. That if you write in, as a supporters club is a big part of it at the end of season as well. The players have got a rota that's put up on the wall, and that's where you have to be. So it's your turn. Derek Johnson, it's your turn to go to York Hill this week or whatever, so they're told where to be for certain events. But I always remember Derek telling me that he was more nervous coming onto the ward at 6B than he would be running out in the Old Firm game.
It's
different environment altogether.
Just for you mentioning that, there was a wee boy, John Docherty, his name was, for Renfrew, and he was St Mirren Daft. And as I said, I grew up on Towerside Road, and Billy Davis stayed in Brockburn at the time.
Okay.
And Billy used to train up at Crookston Castle on his own. And I get talking about him one day and I was explaining about wee John. And he went, "Right, no problem, leave it with me." And I was sitting in the ward with Laura and Angela, and one of the nurses went, "Mr. Brown, there's somebody outside, want to see you." Okay, so on the way up to the door, opened the door, and it was Billy. Brian Hamilton.
Right.
And I mind who the other boy was. And they came up to see wee John.
Right. Brilliant.
Kenny McDowell, that's who it was. And they came up, brought him up the top and signed pictures and all that sort of thing. Because wee John was going down to Great Ormond Street to see about the transplant. And went down for the tests and everything else. And Billy said to him, "You can back up the road, get in touch with David. David can get in touch with me, and we'll take you out to Love Street. And you can come out and meet the team and all that." So he went out. Tony Fitzpatrick was the manager at the time, and Tony Fitzpatrick was brilliant with him. Had him at the pitch and all that sort of stuff, kicking the ball about. And
folk don't see that side of it, do they?
No.
And we're working at Ibrox. I was as much at Parkhead as Ibrox, because the Old Firm are an Old Firm when it comes to charity and things like that. There's no rivalry whatsoever. Even the Lisbon Lions, I met 10 out of the 11 of them through charity stuff. But the football teams in the communities are fantastic with charities and all the stuff that they do, don't they? I refereed games as well, pro celebrity games to raise money. This stuff's going on all the time round about us. It's really good. But so football, Davie, you're talking about football. We could go on a bit, Laura.
Calories all day,
yeah. What about football during your childhood then, through school?
I played with Paul at United. That's where I started off.
What age were you?
14.
Because we did an interview with Andy Elliott a couple of weeks ago. It's just going up live, I think.
I watched it last week.
He talks about the old Paul at United.
What was the old Paul at United?
Right.
Played with them. It was actually Billy Davis's dad, old Billy.
Right.
It was the coach.
Right.
You still see old Billy in a bit. He's a character, so that's brilliant. So I played with them. Went to Blackpool, played in the tournaments down there. And then I just went, played there a few years and then went to play amateur with the Salt Market and different teams.
What position did you play to?
Left back.
Right.
I've always played in defence. I wasn't any good at anything else, so I was able to kick the ball at the park. It's
the great thing about walking football though, because you've never played at full back at walking football. I've seen everybody kids on or something else at walking football. I'm a striker. We've got hundreds of strikers out there.
I know. I've always been a defender. Played in goals as well. Must have been the shortest goalkeeper ever. Because David Denham, we've got nicknames for each other. He's Davino.
That's right.
And I'm Brunaldo.
That's Davey the ball boy to me.
You can over the fence to get them. But I know, as I say, the world of football's great.
Yes,
it's great.
So amateur,
a lot of people.
Through working life then, when you got married, were you still playing?
I played with the Salt Market for a few years.
What's the Salt Market?
There was a Salt Market YMCA.
Okay.
I played with them, then just played for different teams all the time.
Okay. And when you saw us playing walking football, you hadn't played football for a while like that?
No, I hadn't played. I've got a lot of problems with my knees, and I hadn't kicked the ball for 12 years.
Right.
And then...
And that Friday when you came along?
When that Friday came along and that was me, I was back, had the buzz and...
Yeah.
back playing.
See, when you came on the Friday, then not having kicked a ball for 12 years or whatever, what was the situation with niggles and injuries there the day after? Can you remember the Saturday after the Friday?
Just a bit stiff more than anything else.
Because I warn people all the time, their first game for years, just go easy and don't try and do everything at one time.
I think I had my slippers on that day as well because I couldn't score. But no, it's as I've said to guys, come and try it. I says, once you try it, you'll get involved. You will get involved. But as I said, some of the characters you meet as well, like a wee Alec. I mean, the age is it's good.
And our memory session in here in the afternoons kicking off now as well. Folk are starting to see the benefits of walking football now, David.
But plus it gets like people at the house as well, mingling with people and.
Yep. You know what happened on Friday? I don't know if that happened to Danny Stewart. He won't mind me saying that, and it's happened to me, and it happened to Frank on Friday at House of Arts. He fell. Frank's in his 70s, but there was a lad, Alec, there. His first game of walking football ever, and he's nearly 70. Used to play for St Mirren, and he fell as well because his legs aren't going as fast as he thinks they're going, and you get ahead of yourself. Do you know what I mean? And he just took a tumble. It happened to Frank, and he hurt his head and landed there. Same thing happened to me last season, and it happened to Danny Stewart up at Dennis Donnelly. And do you know what I think? It'd be interesting to get some views on this. I don't think the reflexes are the same with your arms coming up. You know, when you fall, you do that. I don't think we do that anymore quick enough. And we're banging our head.
Yeah. You seen that the other week when I run into Michelle. I was trying to pull out the challenge, but I was
the momentum just keeps you both going. Were you all right after that?
Aye, I was fine, aye. Well, I took it in the cinema and I thought, oh no.
So, I've never done this before live, Davie, but this is a contract for Paul United.
Oh, right.
I'm just going to get you signed up here.
Right, no problem.
Okay, I'll fill in the blanks
right,
later
on.
You're excited?
I'm a lefty.
Was that for the camera?
I'm a lefty.
That's your Paul United player now. Jackie will be upset.
Aye.
Do I need to pay him? Do I need to pay or does it you that gets the 2 steak bakes?
It's me that gets the steak bakes and iron and brew. Aye.
Diet and brew.
Aye. I watched my figure again. So. But, no, as I said, it's great. Great to be involved again with it all. Yeah. And even the other week when I played with the over 50s on a Friday, and it was the tempo, and then I came in and played the walk football in the gym.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, the Saturday I was feeling it, but it's good. It's a good workout.
The danger is doing too much, isn't it? There's lots of us have been there because you can play every day when you're retired, but your body's not ready for that kind of punishment. You need a wee recovery in there as well. And some of us have learned how to manage that 2 or 3 times a week or whatever, plenty. We've also got Tuesday nights here now and Sunday mornings that are a different tempo again. It's a kind of hybrid thing that they're trying.
I remember Gordon talked about that in the video.
So there's something for everybody, really. From the very slowest and lowest on a Friday at Bella Houston, we have 10 to 11, 11 to 12. We have the low intensity, and it doesn't get any lower than that. Right up to the 50s now are playing pretty much running football, but with some walking football rules in amongst it. So there's something for everyone there, which is brilliant. And you've got a long career ahead of you, of course. You're now part of the Pollock development squad.
As the youth team.
Yes, that's you.
The youth team.
So you can go home and say that. I mean, I got in the youth squad.
But as I said, Simon, anybody out there that's not done it, come and try it.
I know. Because I get the same as you. I speak to people all the time about walking football, and the response I get is, well, I'm not ready for that yet. You know, as if it's a step down. They really don't get it, do they? And if, as you say, if they try it for 10 minutes, it's game over. They're hooked, unless they're injured.
I know, definitely. You get the buzz. You want to get back amongst that again.
It's football. It's got all the same things as football's got. Hopefully, with the risk of injury a bit less. That's the main
I don't know about that. After a game, your body starts making noises when you're getting up. You get the
I do that all the time. Now, you'll get used to that.
Aye.
You're getting there. You're getting there. Davie, that's been brilliant. I know we've got a wee game this morning
Aye.
coming up.
Aye.
And we'll see you out in the park at left back today.
Aye.
How do I know you're not a striker?
No, I definitely not a striker. Never have been. I've not got the skill to be a striker. So that's me, aye. So, right,
Davie,
Simon, thanks very much.
Thanks for coming in.